America's favorite hymns and classic inspirational songs have been a part of the Lawrence Welk Show for over 40 years. The tradition continues as Norma Zimmer, Ralna English, Guy Hovis, Tom Netherton, Mary Lou Metzger, and Bob Ralston celebrate Lawrence Welk Songs of Faith.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. That was like all times. I love it.
This brings back so many memories for me. It was just one of the hymns I sang on the show many times. I was so fortunate that Lawrence Welk loved having beautiful sacred songs performed on his program as much as I did.
It always amazed me that I wound up on a television show where we got to sing the hymns and gospel songs that I had sung all my life. But I was not amazed that our audiences enjoyed them as much as we did. We always got lots of fan mail commenting on how much these songs meant to the people watching.
It was Lawrence Welk and the show that introduced me to the traditional American hymns that I really hadn't learned growing up as a Catholic. But I quickly learned that sacred music is a universal language that we all know and feel in the heart. I thank Mr. Welk for giving me that appreciation and joy.
I started playing the piano at the local Salvation Army church when I was only 10. So songs of faith have been a part of my life for a very long time. I can't imagine a week going by without playing or singing a favorite hymn.
Sunday was the best day of the week for our family. We'd go to the First Methodist Church together, and when we were little, my two sisters and I would go to Sunday school, and Mother and Daddy would attend the services upstairs. Then we'd all come home, and Mama would cook either fried chicken or pot roast. I do miss those Sunday dinners.
In the last few years, I've noticed, and I'm sure all of you have too, a real awakening of appreciation for hymns and sacred music. I think people are coming closer to God, and one of the ways they can do that is to just do what Lawrence had us do almost every week, sing an inspirational song.
When I was in high school, my Glee Club teacher, Carl Pitzer, said that if I wanted an A in his class, I had to join his church choir. So I did. The messages of hope and encouragement were so powerful in those sacred songs that it changed my whole Depression-era outlook and started me on a more positive journey through life. Truthfully, hymns helped to make me a new person.
I come to the garden alone while the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I hear falling on my ear, the Son of God discloses. And he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. He speaks, and the sound of his voice is so sweet, the birds hush their singing, and the melody that he gave to me within my heart is ringing, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I joy we share as we tarry there. None other has ever Rock of Ages, cleft for me, let me hide myself in thee. Let the water and the blood from thy wounded side which flowed be of sin the double cure. Save from wrath and make me pure. While I draw this fleeting breath, when my eyelids close in death, when I soar to worlds unknown, see beyond thy judgment throne. Rock of Ages, left for me, let me hide myself in thee.
Mr. Welk passed away in 1992, and I want to tell you about something that happened at his funeral mass. When it came time for communion, the priest invited all of us to take part. He asked the non-Catholics to simply put our hand over our heart, and he would give us his blessing instead of communion. And as I walked up the aisle with Kathy and Janet Lennon and so many of my Welk Show friends, I realized that we had shared so much together, but this was the first time that we had ever shared our faith, all together in one place. It was a fitting expression of the feeling of family that Mr. Welk had given us over the years, a final gift from a man we all loved and admired.
Why should I feel discouraged? Why should the shadows come? Why should my heart be lonely and long for heaven and home when Jesus is my portion, my constant friend is He. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. And I sing because I am happy. I sing because I'm free. For His eye is on the sparrow, watches me. And I sing because I am happy. I sing because I'm free. For his eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. Yes, his eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. I know he watches me.
It's so difficult to lose an old friend, and we all feel the painful loss of Jimmy Roberts. He was always a gentleman, kind and thoughtful, and the best singing partner one could ever imagine.
I played for Jimmy often on the show, and back in the 60s, we toured together, just the two of us, playing and singing in churches all over California. And sometimes you were able to join us, Norma. And like Norma, Jimmy knew all the hymns and sang them so beautifully.
In the past few years, Jimmy and I had a chance to share a dressing room at the Champagne Theater in Branson, and he never lost his wonderful sense of humor, his great spirit and courage, even as he battled his cancer. He was always hopeful, and he trusted God to help him through it.
He never lost his love of singing and had future performances on his calendar. So he kept going until his last breath, an inspiration for all of us. We love you, Jimmy, and you'll always abide in our hearts.
Abide with me, past all eventide. The darkness deepens, Lord, with me abide. When other helpers fail and comforts flee, help of the helpless, oh, abide with Hold thou thy cross before my closing eyes. Shine through the gloom and point me to the skies. And morning grace and
This was his most requested song, and we know you'll enjoy hearing some of our own Jimmy Roberts favorites.
Prayer is the key to heaven, but faith unlocks the door. Words are so easily spoken. A prayer without faith is like a boat without an oar. Have faith when you speak to the Master, that's all he asks you for. Yes, prayer is a key to heaven, but faith unlocks the door. On a hill far away stood an old rugged cross, the emblem of suffering and shame. And I love that old cross, where the dearest and best for a world of lost sinners was slain. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the old rugged cross and exchange it someday for a crown. How many times have you prayed for something big or something small? And how long did you have to wait? Or did the answer come at all? Words are mere expressions of thoughts, nothing more. Believing is what really counts, and faith is what unlocks the door. So have faith when you speak to the Master. That's all he asks you for. Yes, prayer is a key to heaven, but faith unlocks the
Such a wonderful voice.
Always just great.
And I really enjoyed seeing those clips of Jimmy again.
I was working with Jimmy on Valentine's Day a few years ago, and his wife Vi told me that not a week would go by that Jimmy didn't thank her for marrying him. They really took good care of one another and enjoyed it.
The Kentucky Gentleman was such an appropriate nickname for Jimmy, and I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to walk a few miles with him.
Jimmy's in God's hands now, as we all will be someday, singing with the angels, and I'm sure they never sounded better. We dedicate this hymn to his memory with great affection and lasting admiration.
O Lord my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the worlds thy hands have made, I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power throughout the universe display. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. When Christ shall come with shout of acclamation and take me home, what joy shall fill my heart, and I shall bow in humble adoration and there proclaim, my God, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou
Guy and Ralma.
Put your hand in the hand of the man who stilled the water. Put your hand in the hand of the man who calmed the sea. Take a look at yourself and you can look at others differently. Put your hand in the hand of the man from Galilee. Every time I look into the holy book, I want to tremble. When I read about the part where the carpenter cleared the temple. For the buyers and the sellers were no different fellas than what I profess to be. And it causes me shame to know I'm not the man that I should be. No, no, no. Put your hand in the hand of the man who stilled the water. Put your hand in the hand of the man who calmed the sea. Take a look at yourself and you can look at others differently. Put your hand in the hand of the man from Galilee.
My mama taught me how to pray before I reached the age of 7. And when I'm down on my knees, well, that's when I'm close to heaven. My daddy lived his life with 3 kids and a wife, and he knew what he should do. And he taught me enough of what it takes to get you through. Come on and put your hand in the hand of the man who stilled the water. Put your hand in the hand of the man who calmed the sea. Take a look at yourself and you can look at others differently. Put your hand in the hand of the man from Galilee. Put your hand in the hand of the man from Galilee. Galilee.
Thank you. In 1971, the second year that Roland and I were on the show, Lawrence asked us to record an album of our favorite hymns.
This is it right here, Hymns We Love to Sing. We weren't much older than our daughter Julie is right now.
Right. You know, it became a huge hit. It was actually on Billboard magazine's list of the top 20 albums that year.
And to this day, it's our all-time best-selling record. We recorded 4 different albums of hymns and gospel songs during our years on The Welk Show. And this one, How Great Thou Art, was nominated for a Dove Award.
The American gospel tradition is made up of many traditions, including religious hymns from all over the world, folk music, and spirituals. Melodies have been adapted and then adopted by so many churches over the years that we truly can't remember who created them.
One of the old songs we love to do together is this one, written in 1865. The melody itself is a simple classic hymn, but the tempo is definitely inspired by the joyous rhythms of country folk songs.
There's a church in the valley by the wildwood, no lovelier place in the dale. No spot is so dear to my childhood as the little brown church in the vale. Oh, come, 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 come to the church in the wildwood. Oh, come to the church in the dale. No spot is so dear to my childhood as the little brown church in the vale.
How sweet on a clear Sabbath morning to listen to the clear ringing bell. Its tones so sweetly are calling, oh, come to the church in the vale. Oh, come, 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 come,
come to the church
in the wildwood.
Oh, come to the church in the dale. No spot is so dear to my childhood as the little brown church in the vale. So come to the church
In the wildwood,
oh, come to the church in the dale. No spot is so dear to my childhood as a little brown church in the vale. As a little brown church in the vale.
Thank you. Being on the Lawrence Welk Show was so much fun. And like so many experiences in our lives, we had no idea how much fun we were having until after it was all over.
We have many wonderful memories of those years, and God helped us through the dark times as we sorted out our destinies and took separate but compatible paths.
We treasure all the good times we shared.
And we still enjoy singing those great old gospel songs together, don't we, Guy?
Swing low, sweet cherry, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet cherry, coming for to carry me home.
if you get there before I do, coming for to carry me home. Tell all my friends I'm coming there too, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet cherry.
When I was a student at Temple University in downtown Philadelphia, I was invited to a friend's church in the inner city. It was my first experience of attending services in a black church, and it was exhilarating. Their music was filled with joy and prayerful enthusiasm, and I went back many times to sing with them in the choir. Our sacred music is richer because much of it was inspired by spirituals and blues traditions, such as this one.
I literally grew up in a Baptist church in Tupelo, Mississippi. When we weren't at home or in school, we were usually in church. I sang my first solo in church at the age of 5, and I've been singing in church choirs ever since. Hymns have a soothing, healing effect on me, and when I'm stressed out or in emotional pain, I can go and put on one of my favorite CDs of spiritual selections, and it really comforts me. And of course, I usually sing along. One day at a time, sweet Jesus, that's all I'm asking from you. Just give me the strength to do every day what I have to do. Yesterday's gone, sweet Jesus, and tomorrow may never be mine. So Lord, help me today, show me the way, one day at a time. I'm only human, yes, I'm just a man. Lord, help me believe in all I can be and all that I am. Show me that stairway I have to climb. Lord, for my sake, teach me to take one day at a time. One day at a time, sweet Jesus, that's all I'm asking from you. Just to give me the strength to do everything what I have to do. Yesterday's gone, sweet Jesus,
and tomorrow may never be mine. So Lord, help me today, show me the way, one day at a time. Yes, Lord, for my sake, teach me to take one day at a time.
He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the little bitty baby in his hands. He's got the little bitty baby in his hands. He's got the little bitty baby in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the big round world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands.
He's got the you and me, brother. In his hands, he's got the you and me, sister. In his hands, he's got the you and me, mister. In his hands, he's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the everybody here. In his hands, he's got the everybody here. In his hands, he's got everybody here. In his hands, he's got the whole world in his hands.
He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands.
You know, Bob, that song was on my first album. Lawrence Welk presents Tom Netherton, My Favorite Hymns. I couldn't believe my good fortune that he would be the person to introduce me to the recording world. Lawrence Welk, who played such an important role in my life and career, always encouraged me to sing hymns as well as popular songs, and I felt so privileged to sing both on national television.
You know, the first time Lawrence Welk ever heard me play Tom, it was a piano solo on Deep Purple, and I was a contestant on a TV show called Hollywood Opportunity. And as it turned out, Lawrence Welk was one of the judges that night. He voted for me, and I was lucky enough to win the grand prize. You know what it was? It was a brand new Dodge car. I gave it to my mom so she wouldn't have to take the bus to work. But a few years later, I started guesting on Lawrence Welk's TV show, and then after a few weeks, right there in front of the audience, he asked me to become a regular member.
You know, Bob, I can't believe that it's been, my goodness, 25 years now that I've been a member of the Lawrence Welk musical family.
25 for you and 35 for me. And folks, here's one of those great musical numbers I remember very well.
Is this need to share our love? So open your heart to the one above. There is this need to do your best. So heed his word, and he'll do the rest. Wherever you may go, whatever you may do, learn to follow him, and he will see you through. Day and night, he's at your side. Remember this, he is your guide. It's never too late to look above. There is this need to share our love. Wherever you may go, whatever you may do, learn to follow him, and he will see you through. Day and night, he's at your side. Remember this, he is your guide. It's There is this need. Now!
My first introduction to religion happened when I was about 6 years old. There was a dear old gentleman in the neighborhood who wanted all the kids on our block to learn about God and the Bible. He offered each of us 10 cents if we would memorize the books in the New Testament. I worked so hard to do just that, and I did receive my precious dime. It was like $10 in those hard times. I think of that generous man sharing his hard-earned money and his love for the Bible with us whenever I hear the good old gospel songs like this one.
We will understand it better by and by.
By and by we will know by and by. Trials dark on every hand, and we cannot understand all the ways that God will lead us to that blessed promised land. But He'll guide us with His eye, and we'll follow till we die. We will understand it better by and by. By and by, when the morning comes, all the saints of God are gathering home. We will tell the story how we've overcome. We will understand it better by and by.
We will understand it better by and by.
We are often destitute of the things that life demands, want of shelter and of food, thirsty hills and barren land. But we're trusting in the Lord, and according to His word, we will understand it better by and by. By and by, when the morning comes, all the saints of God are gathering home. We will tell the story how we've overcome. We will understand it better by and by. In the sweet by and by, we will meet on that beautiful shore.
I believe that people always turn to God and music in times of war, looking for peace and comfort. And I know that from my own experience, too, because I didn't come to a full knowledge of who Christ was until I was in the Army. It was the late 60s. I was a second lieutenant, waiting for my final orders to go to Vietnam. And I read that the life expectancy for a young officer in the infantry in Vietnam was 90 days. The reality hit that this was no longer just a youthful adventure. And I wondered if my life had counted for anything and if I'd go to heaven. Well, a few nights later, I heard an evangelist quote this verse from Paul. It's no longer I that live, but Christ that lives in me. It was the true beginning of my faith, and I was transformed by the knowledge that we don't have to struggle in this life alone, because He is real, and He will be with me always.
He touched me, He touched me,
shackled by a heavy burden, beneath a load of guilt and shame. Then the hand of Jesus touched me, and now I am no longer the same. He touched me,
He touched me,
He touched me,
He touched me,
and oh, the joy that floods my soul. Something happened, and now I know He touched me and made me whole. Since I met this blessed Savior, since He cleansed and made me whole, I will never cease to praise Him. I'll shout it while eternity rolls. He touched me,
He touched me,
He touched me,
He touched me,
and oh, the joy that floods my soul. Something really happened, and now I know He touched me and made me whole.
He touched me,
He touched me,
He touched me,
He touched me.
He touched me.
Back in the 50s, when I was still a teenager, I joined the Baptist church and I met Ruth Rood, the pastor's wife, who was also the organist. After she heard me play the piano, she said, "Bob, the Lord has laid it on my heart to teach you to play the organ." So for the next 2 years, she gave me a free lesson every week, something my family would never have been able to afford. And this changed my life forever. Along with my wife, mother, and great aunt, she is one of the 4 women who have meant the most to me, and this song is dedicated to all of them.
Although you can't tell it from reading the newspapers and listening to the TV news, I do believe that this country is having a spiritual rebirth. A lot of the 60s generation who said God is dead had a change of heart and mind when they began to raise their own kids. And their children, now in their 20s and 30s, seem to be more spiritually connected than the generation before them.
I believe that the churches are responsible for this rebirth too. They're finding new ways to be of service to their communities, and that's where it all begins. If we love and take care of our neighbors, our community will be a beautiful place. We live in the greatest country in the world because we've always been willing to go out and fight for what is right.
I believe that more and more Americans want us to return to being one nation under God, a philosophy that Lawrence Welk always endorsed.
Flowers still bloom in the springtime, raindrops still make them grow, autumn still follows the summer, a child still wishes for snow. Old folks grow tired and leave us, but each day new babies arrive. Someone makes all of this happen. It's so clear that God is alive. Boys still grow up to be soldiers, and wars breed hatred and fear. But wars are started by people who just don't believe God is here. Somehow, some still deny Him, saying that God is dead. Yet man has come and man has gone, and still His world lives on and on. His love will survive. Yes, God is alive. Somehow, some still deny Him, and they're saying that God is dead. Yet man has come and man has gone, and still His world lives on and on. His love will survive. Yes, God is alive.
In my lifetime, I've lived through World War II, and in the years afterward, watched young American men and women risk their lives in Korea, Vietnam, Lebanon, Iraq, Somalia, Kosovo, and so many other remote corners of this good earth. I pray every day that this new century won't be as bloody as the last one, and that the leaders of each nation will govern their people with equality, justice, and respect for all humanity, looking for guidance and wisdom from our God.
Hallowed be
but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory
I was in Washington, D.C. a few years ago and visited the Vietnam War Memorial, and I found the name of one of my high school friends, Jim Reinhardt, who was killed by a landmine. He and I had performed in Carousel together, and I always think of him when I hear You'll Never Walk Alone, one of the inspirational songs written by Rodgers and Hammerstein. I've done a lot of shows at veterans' hospitals, and we should never forget those brave men whose wars spanned 3/4 of the 20th century. We dedicate this song to all of them.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He hath loosed a fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. Glory, glory. He has sounded forth the trumpet that shall never call retreat. He is sifting out the hearts of men before his judgment seat. Oh, be swift, my soul, to answer him. Be jubilant, my feet. Our God is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. In the beauty of the lilies, Christ was born across the sea, with a glory in his bosom that transfigures you and me. As he died to make men holy, let us die to make men free, while God is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, I want to be in that number when the saints go marching in. I want to join the heavenly band. Want to join the heavenly band. Want to hear the clarinet blowing when the saints saints go marching in.
Irving Berlin wrote a simple little song in 1952 that had a very big message for all of us. It was all about being thankful for what you have and not concentrating on what you don't have. I've been keeping a gratitude journal, and every day I write down 5 things for which I'm grateful. At the end of today, my journal will read 1, good friends, 2, doing the work I love best, 3, living in a country under God that allows me to work freely, 4, a loving family that supports me in my work, and 5, people like you who enjoy what I do and tell me so. Thank you. When I'm worried and I can't sleep, I count my blessings instead of sheep, and I fall asleep counting my blessings. When my bankroll is getting small, I think of when I had none at all, and I fall asleep counting my blessings. I think about a nursery and I picture curly heads, and one by one I count them as they slumber in their beds. So if you're worried and you can't sleep, just count your blessings instead of sheep, and fall asleep counting your blessings. And you'll fall asleep counting your blessings.
Music has a way of touching the soul in a much different and more profound way than the spoken word. Even some preachers would agree with that. And sometimes the most traditional sounding musical voice comes out of a very contemporary man, like the talented Chris Christopherson. My friend Clay Hart sings one of his great songs.
Why me, Lord? What have I ever done to deserve even one of the pleasures I've known? Tell me, Lord, what did I ever do that was worth loving you, or the kindness you've shown? Lord, help me, Jesus, I've wasted it so. Help me, Jesus, I know what I am. Now that I know that I've needed you so, help me, Jesus, my soul's in your hand. Try me, Lord, if you think there's a way I can try to repay all I've taken from you. And maybe, Lord, I can show someone else what I've been through myself on my way back to you. Lord, help me, Jesus, I've wasted it so. Help me, Jesus, I know what I am. And now that I know that I've needed you so, help me, Jesus, my soul's in your hand. Oh, Jesus, my soul's in your hand.
As you folks probably know, people were constantly sending audition tapes to Lawrence Welk. Well, it was my dear mother who sent my tape to him. Now, Lawrence Welk didn't need a pianist or an organist at the time, but he kept my tape on file until he did. My mother was a very interesting and talented woman. She was the original voice of Minnie Mouse for Walt Disney. She always had faith in my abilities, and she never stopped helping me pursue my dreams. You know, when someone believes in you, you can overcome even the greatest obstacles.
When I was about 7 years old, I was coloring a picture of Jesus in the basement of our church in Spur, Texas, and a ray of light came through the window right onto my paper. And I thought, Jesus really is my friend. Over the years, my confidence began to slip away, and I was hospitalized in 1980, having truly lost all hope. And in that hospital, I literally felt God's hand on mine, and his healing touch started me down the long road to recovery. From that very day, I had a feeling of reassurance because I knew that God was alive and that he was my friend and Savior, and his love was far greater than any I had ever known in my life.
I believe for every drop of rain that falls, a flower grows. I believe that somewhere in the darkest night, a candle glows. I believe for everyone who goes astray, someone will come to show the way. I believe. I believe above the storm the smallest prayer will still be heard. I believe that someone in the great somewhere hears every word.
It was the vision of one man, Lawrence Welk, that brought us all together to be a musical family. A family that has worked together for so many years. And of course, it took the grace of God. And what is grace? That word that we use so often? Well, grace is defined as God's unmerited favor. And to me, that means a gift bestowed on all of us that we haven't earned. In times of hardship, we should remember that all things work together for good and that God will extend His grace to all of us. Thank you so much for being a part of our family, and may God bless you with His grace every day. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Twas grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now found. Was blind, but now I see. I once was lost, but now am found. I was blind, but now